Hi everyone, my name is Melissa van Dijk and in today's video I'm ranking the most common ways to cook potatoes, but from a skin health perspective. I'm not just talking about general nutrition, I'm talking about how your cooking choices can directly impact your skin. Now from my experience, the way you cook your potatoes matters more than you think. And if you're struggling with breakouts, acne, inflammation, skin discoloration or sagging skin, or you just want clearer, healthier skin, then this is something you really need to pay attention to because the details matter. Some cooking methods create harmful compounds called ACEs, short for advanced glycation end products. You've probably heard me mention them in other videos. And they form when food is exposed to dry, high heat, like baking or frying. And they can damage your skin's collagen, increase inflammation, and absolutely contribute to acne breakouts and premature aging. And just to be clear, for all the methods I'm covering today, I'm assuming the potatoes are peeled. That's because the skin, especially on non-organic potatoes, often carries pesticides residues, sprout inhibitors, and natural glycoalkaloids, which can irritate the gut and immune system. And those two systems are directly linked to skin clarity and inflammation. This becomes especially problematic when these foods are a regular staple in your diet and not just something you eat occasionally. Occasional consumption may not be a big issue, but it's the consistent everyday exposure that can build up and eventually show up on your skin over time. And that's exactly why it is so important to consider. So with all that said, let's start with the least skin-friendly option and work our way up. Coming in last place, baked potatoes, especially when cooked at high temperatures and with the skin left on. And yes, even though I've mentioned peeled potatoes earlier, I had to call this out because baking with the skin on is still super common. Baking uses dry, high heat, which, as I mentioned earlier, promotes the formation of ACEs. And this doesn't just apply to traditional oven baking, air frying falls into the same category. Even though it uses less oil, it still relies on dry circulating heat, so the same skin-damaging compounds are being formed. On top of that, a lot of people season their baked or air-fried potatoes before cooking with spice blends that can burn or oxidize at high heat, adding even more unwanted compounds into the mix. So while these might seem like healthy options, especially when they're crispy, they can actually be sneaky triggers for skin inflammation and breakouts, particularly when eaten regularly. Next up, deep-fried potatoes, whether that's fries, wedges or chips. Now a lot of people assume this would be the absolute worst option, and in some ways it's pretty close, especially when fried in industrial seed oils like canola, sunflower, soybean or corn oil. These oils are high in polyunsaturated fats, which are very unstable when exposed to high heat. They oxidize quickly and produce toxic byproducts that fuel inflammation, and that shows up on your skin as breakouts, puffiness, or more swollen or saggy appearance, especially around the face. And let's be honest, most fried potatoes are coming from restaurants or packaged foods where the oils are reused multiple times, making the inflammatory load even worse. But here's the thing, deep frying isn't automatically a disaster if it's done with the right kind of fat. If you're frying at home using something more stable like beef tallow or even avocado oil, the outcome is very different. These fats are much more heat stable, meaning they don't break down as easily at high temperatures. And that means fewer inflammatory byproducts, less oxidative stress, and a much smaller impact on your skin. I've personally tested this over the course of a couple of weeks, eating it daily, and my skin hasn't reacted at all. No breakouts, no puffiness, nothing. Honestly, when it's done properly, deep frying in the right fat and with the right method may actually be less harmful than we think, and in some cases even better than baking. That said, I haven't followed up on that experiment long term, so I still recommend keeping it occasional. Personally, I will have fries once or twice per week, fried in beef tallow, and it works incredibly well for me, for both my digestion and skin clarity. Still, I recommend being cautious with overconsumption. Pan frying is next, and the reason I rank it second is because the key here really comes down to two things: what fat you're using and how hot you're cooking. When you pan fry with stable fats, like avocado oil, ghee or butter and keep the heat at a low to moderate level around 130 to 150 degrees Celsius, you're already avoiding the worst of oxidation that happens with unstable oils. You're also producing fewer harmful compounds than with high heat methods like baking or deep frying in seed oils. But it is still important to remember, pan fry uses dry heat and you're still getting a little surface browning even if you're being really careful. And that means a fair amount of agents are still being formed. So while it's better than the previous methods, it's not exactly skin friendly, especially if you eat it often. But if you are mindful, it can be a decent middle ground. Just don't overdo it or let things burn. And this method can fit into your routine occasionally without throwing off your skin's balance. Personally, I eat pan-fried potatoes only occasionally. I actually prefer fries, but mostly because of the taste. And finally, we have the most skin-friendly option. Boiled potatoes with the skin removed and a small amount of healthy fat added. Boiling uses moist heat at a relatively low temperature, which means very minimal age formation compared to all the other methods. You're not browning the surface, you're not oxidizing oils, and you're not drying the potatoes out, all of which helps reduce the inflammatory load on your body and in turn on your skin. Peeling the potatoes beforehand makes a big difference too. Like I mentioned earlier, the skin often contains pesticide residues, sprout inhibitors, and glycoalkaloids, all of which can irritate the gut and immune system, which are deeply connected to skin health. Adding a little healthy fat, like grass-fed butter, avocado oil, or even ghee, not only improves the flavor and texture, but also helps slow digestion, reduce blood sugar spikes, and support hormonal balance. All of these factors contribute to keeping our skin clear, calm, and more resilient. The method might not have the excitement of a crispy fry or roasted veg, but in terms of supporting our skin, reducing inflammation, and keeping our gut happy, this one wins every time. It's a method I personally use the most, usually once or twice per day for lunch and or dinner, as a perfect potato side dish. Not because it's trendy, but because it actually works. So overall, I would say enjoy your baked, deep-fried or pan-fried potatoes just occasionally, maybe just once or twice a week in total. And for the rest of your potato-based meals, stick to boiled potatoes. That way, you are cutting down on unhealthy fats and dramatically reducing aged in your diet, which is great for your skin and overall health. And I'll wrap it up right there. I hope this video was helpful for you and gave you some new ideas to try. And if you want to see exactly how I make my boiled potatoes or French fries, you can check out the videos right here. And if you found it helpful, don't forget to give the thumbs up and subscribe. It really supports my channel. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop the comments down below and I'm happy to help. Thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.